Cameras. Cameras everywhere. But which one works best for you? That's what I'm going to try to figure out. So I'm going to be comparing 3 different webcams, and of course, this is not a webcam, if you could have guessed. This is my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. The rig I have it set up on is like $2,000, probably, something like that. So this is, you know, not well, plus the capture card too. Anyway, much more expensive than a webcam, and I think it kind of reflects in the video quality. Now, is it to scale? Is this 100, you know, however multiple times better of an image than a webcam? Of course not. No, you're not getting that. So depending on your needs, a webcam's probably going to be what you want, and that's why I'm going to be showing off 3 different webcams. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on to webcam number 1. So I have not seen this webcam before. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. This is the Raleno. I'm just gonna go for it, try to say it. This is a bit of a wide angle lens. I don't really see noticeable warping, so that could be, I mean, I think as a general, that's probably a pretty good thing. I think a lot of people don't like the fisheye look. I mean, my finger kind of looks like it's warping, but that's because I have ligaments, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Now let's mess with the settings. So right now it's okay. I mean, the background is completely blown out, obviously. Like, this is really not very good looking. If you had it on a green screen or something, it would be okay. Or if you, for some reason, wanted to have this really weird everything is blown out look, then that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on lights, which I think, something to note, a lot of webcams don't really like good light. So we'll see if this, yep, it just gets completely blown out. Completely blown out. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to open up the settings for this, and I'm going to try to pull them on screen. We're going to go through these settings now. This stuff, some of it you can put on auto, some of it you can't. Okay, we're going to leave white balance alone for right now. That seems okay. And then, as you can tell, this is stupid bright. I have a light here and here. You can kind of see one behind me, but that one's not on. And this is going to be, if we can get the settings right, the best way to do it. We absolutely want to have lights. Like, that makes things look better, objectively. Now, if the settings on this is going to make it look worse, then we aren't going to. But ideally, we have the lights on and configure the settings to this, and that will have a better image. So, our gamma, let's see. No, this was at 100. Gamma's not doing us any favors. Can I type? Okay, can't type. All right, so our white balance, we can mess with that later. Right now, we need to, there's no gain. Okay, it's not good, don't do that. Brightness, crank down the brightness. That's helping a little bit. If we boost the contrast, that is typically a good thing. Okay, no, it's doing the opposite. See, now what I actually think we need to do, I got a little hidden trick for you, okay? It's called going to the other settings and realizing that exposure's cranked up. And there we go. That's so much better. Oh my god. This is like normal. This is fine. Now let me turn the lights off and we'll see how that looks as well. This is me reaching for lights. Okay, that light's off. This light's off. Okay, yeah, so definitely want lights on. Move that back. Okay, yeah, so lights are absolutely the way we want to go. We have exposure at -6. We also have low light compensation on. I don't think we need that. Let me hit apply. It's not really doing anything. Maybe it's because we don't have low light. Let's just assume we will never have low light because we have lights on. I'll crank down. Okay, that's definitely not good. Oh my god, these are like huge stops. This is very dramatic. -6 is absolutely where we want, and then we can change the brightness if we want to dial in a little bit. Another good thing you can do is you can actually look at the preview window for this and kind of see how it looks whenever it's smaller, because it looks dramatically better whenever it's smaller. And so I'm going to go ahead and say that I think the best use case for using something like this is not full screen. Okay, if you want to use this for game streaming or something like that, definitely would recommend that as the way to do it. The full screen image that we're looking at right now, not very good. The one in the top right, I would say actually pretty good. Like, that's 100% usable. I mean, the one dead ahead is usable as well, but I wouldn't be incredibly happy with it. The one up top, this is weird because both of them are me. This one, I'm like, I would use that. I own an expensive camera. I would still use the one up top, which again, the pointing does not help differentiate at all, but that's fine. Don't think about it too much. So I am going to tweak with the settings just a tiny bit more though. Apparently sharpness doesn't do anything. The white balance, whenever you adjust it yourself, doesn't work. It's like right here, you're like, okay, maybe it's kind of working, but also everything's still green. That's, I don't know if that's an OBS thing or it has to do with this webcam, but it's weird. And right here, you know, if you ever see Willy Wonka, you know, you can go for that if you want. I think ideally you bump this up, but maybe that much. This looks the best I can get. And I really don't see any point in making this too contrasty. I think around here is probably, I'm gonna leave it at 40. And you can see how dramatic you can make it look. Yeah, I think 38, I think actually is the best. I keep accidentally going back to that. And then if you want to wash out all your colors, by all means, feel free to do that. I guess it doesn't really help that I'm wearing black, or maybe it does. Maybe I'm stress testing. You know, this is the worst case scenario for having this stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably about as good as we're gonna get for this. Now, the next webcam I have, this one was actually sent to me for review by Fifine, and this is the only one I have the box for, so I'll go ahead and just open up the box. In front of that happy little smile, some plastic I'm gonna have to peel off. That's more like it. Not really much to the box, pretty much just packaging, and there's a little quick guide, but if you could guess, it pretty much just says, plug it in. So let's go ahead and plug it in. Okay, so again, this is the only webcam I've showed off so far. I'm about to swap over now to the Fifine. This is by default what the Fifine looks like. Now, immediately, I want to go ahead and point out that it looks in some ways not as good because I haven't really done anything with the color, but I do want to take note that if you don't like having super dark and contrasty with this, like, I found no way to make the other webcam look like this with colors. Like, everything is just dark. Also, take note of, oops, wrong way, these edges. This angle is pretty wide. It's punched in more, but it's also wider. I think it might not actually be punched in more. I think I actually have it closer. It kind of like extends out. Yeah, the webcam just extends out. I can't really fix that to match it very easily, but I do want to go ahead and say that the colors, like skin tones, are, I don't know. That actually looks pretty good. I don't know. I feel like maybe my skin is just really weird, but it has like the kind of like cell phone, like smeary, glossy, almost like beauty effect where like you wouldn't see imperfections, which very well may be a plus for you. I don't care either way. I wouldn't consider it a pro, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it a con either. Let me go ahead and start messing with some of the settings though, and see how I want the end product to be. But out of camera, my biggest takeaway is if you want something that has more natural colors, you absolutely are going to like want this, because I couldn't push the colors to be like this on the other webcam. So I'm gonna mess with this for a minute and see what I can get. This is all default you're looking at right now. So I think for me, how I want to have this set up, it's fairly simple. I went ahead and I bumped down the brightness. I boosted the contrast, because really all that did was, well, here, I'll just show you what it did. By default, it's at like 50. And as you can see, it looks like it's like whenever you color grade something, I don't know if you've ever done that, it goes from looking like a flat image to kind of like, I'm bringing back some of the shadows and the blacks and stuff like that. And it's not hampering any of the colors. Like, if anything, this is almost acting like a pseudo saturation slider. Like, you can see not just in blacks where contrast is normally pretty big, but like if you look at the wood behind me, you can see if I go from this all the way to this, it kind of gets its color back. And obviously you don't want to go too far with it, but for this particular webcam, it seems like maxing it out is pretty all right. It doesn't do anything too horrible. That might just be because I have a ton of black though, so I don't know. Your mileage may vary. You very well may want to swap with the settings. Sharpness gets this weird effect. I absolutely would not do it at all. Very like cell phony, filtery kind of look. Definitely don't want that. I'm gonna put that back at 50. But I would say, oh, and another thing, I feel like the way that the colors kind of work on here, not how I want it. So I am going to desaturate it a little bit and turn down the hue, and I think that works best for me. For you, you know, do whatever you want, but I think overall this is pretty much how I want the image. I'll do a comparison real quick between the two, but I'm pretty happy with this. So you can see this one right here. Again, I think this one has like a little bit better skin tones, but that is definitely at the cost of like taking color out of some things that should or shouldn't have them. Like if I had any detail on here, you absolutely would not be able to see it. I don't, so it's fine. But if I did, it would be really hard. Like the dark spots on here are just crazy. Whereas on here, they're more reasonable. This is like more of a normal thing. That I would say number one biggest thing. And then number two, this is hard for me to line this up. Hold on, there we go. Okay, the angles. My hands don't bend like this. My hands are not like this. So it's more of a wide angle, which honestly, I personally like. I don't know if that's just because I like skate tapes or what, but I think for me, that's really cool. And you can always just punch in a little bit if you don't like that. So I don't think that's a big deal. Now, I am going to go ahead and throw in a third webcam. This is the only one that I had a box for because I got it new. All the other ones I'd had just kind of laying around for a little bit. Also, I did get sent this one. Fifine sent me this. I'm not getting paid. They sent me it for free, said, hey, would you talk about it? I'm talking about it, as you can see. So I'll have a link to all of these, this included. If you want to check them out, feel free to. If not, you know, it's not a big deal. I'm not pushing you to get this one if you don't like it, but if you do, obviously get it, you know? So let me go ahead and show off the most expensive one, most expensive webcam. I'm going to show off my camera too. And the most expensive webcam is the Logitech C920, which is kind of like been the golden standard for this kind of stuff for a while. But I guess webcam prices are really weird now. Like these are like half the price of the C920, whereas the C920 used to be at that price that like I've seen C920s for like $100 now. They used to be like 40 or 50. these that we're looking at are like 40 and 50. So if the C920 goes back down, then maybe these will go down even further. I don't know, but none of that matters until you actually see the C920, because if it costs more and it's junk, then like whatever, dude. So I'm not going to talk about the C920 anymore on the Fifine. I'm just swapping over. So this is the Logitech C920. I'm going to do a little before and after. This is the Logitech. This is the Fifine. This is the Logitech. This is the Fifine. So I only have this two plugged up, or I would swap to the other one as well. Sorry, I don't have enough USB ports. My bad. Anyway, this is the C920. It has, I'd say, a pretty good mix of the features from both of the previous ones we looked at. It still has this kind of weird, like glowy, glossy beauty filter look to it. But I would say that the colors are a lot more accurate, just straight out of the box, or at least more uniform. Maybe accurate isn't a great way to describe that, but I'm gonna go ahead and just start tweaking with it right off the bat. Now, this does want you, I don't think it actually like 100% forces you to, but it wants you to download Logitech software, which is kind of annoying. None of the other ones do that. And so whenever I installed it, it then said, hey, OBS is using this. We can't do anything with it. So I'm just not even gonna use the software, and we're gonna see what we can do with OBS. Okay, so in terms of adjustments, this actually doesn't have a lot of meaningful settings for it. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a lot of control, but there aren't a lot of settings that you actually need to mess with, I guess. Like out of the box, it's pretty good. Like I just tweaked the brightness down a little bit. I think I bumped the contrast up a tiny bit. I desaturated it a little bit. I bumped the sharpness up just a tiny bit. And then like the exposure is just ridiculous. All these settings are good. Like being able to zoom in or change the focus, doing things like that are good. But this is like, this acts in more of a way that I would think it would work relative to like a camera. So let me show you contrast, for example. So right now I'm just gonna bump it to, okay, so it's at 131. And then this is how I would expect contrast to work on the other cameras, which it did not. You bump it up and everything gets really weird and hurts my eyes to look at. That's like how messing with contrast normally is, or just messing with any setting to the extreme. It normally kind of does something like that. Like I'll show you saturation, watch this. So it's at 133. And you know, we turn all weird and red. So, and pretty much every setting is like that. Now something like these settings act more of how I would expect them to, and some of them are much more usable compared to the other webcams. Like white balance actually works. It's not like a weird hue shift. Like this right here, I can make it cool. I'm trying to do this really slowly so you can see that some of these are like actually ones you would want. Pretty much in this range is all of the ones that you would want, and then I would never go anywhere around here. So, but yeah, it has a range, which is nice. Some of the other ones weren't really great with setting up their white balance, so I'm just gonna keep that on auto. Really, a lot of these are just like, hey, put on auto. You might be able to do some color correcting, like do a LUT for this. I don't know that you have enough detail to be able to do that, but I do think that this webcam looks pretty good. All of them are fine, and I think the biggest thing is going to be I'm going to put them in the like side by sides, and you'll see at a smaller view how they look. And this is like the end all be all. This is an actual camera. You can put whatever lens you want on it. So many settings you can change. It has enough data to where you can color it in whatever way you want. And this is definitely the best one that you can get. It is dramatically more expensive though, but you know, it's good to have it as a reference point. So now we have 4 little things that we can compare. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go on screen and I'm just gonna cut them into into fourths. I'm gonna have something up here, something here. This is really hard. Something here, and something like right here. And I'll do mic test too. I'm sorry if you really wanted a mic test earlier. I didn't really think about it until now, so let's go. This is the setup that I use. This is using my nice camera and my nice microphone. I am going to go ahead and do a microphone test so that you have a point of reference. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And now I'm going to just sit here for dead space so I can be on screen so you can compare me to the other webcams. So let's go over to those. This is the Logitech C920. I'm using the onboard microphone for the Logitech C920. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Now I'm gonna go ahead and swap over to the Fifine. I am now using the Fifine webcam and the Fifine webcam microphone. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is the final webcam, the Raleno. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is all on the onboard microphone. And here I am closing it out with my normal microphone, just talking over all the webcams. And I think it's very obvious the actual camera way better than everything else. And then everything else just kind of has its own pros and cons. I really don't know that I feel there's a definite recommendation from me from some of them over the other ones, to be honest. I don't know. It really just depends on what kind of lens and field of view you want, what kind of color profile, how much motion you want going on. Some of them looked a little more smeary than others. Really just, you know, kind of look at it, see if you need the onboard audio, and you should have your answer there, I think.